Review the Light. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Nitecore TM36. But really quick, if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit this link right up here to subscribe to my YouTube channel, this one to follow me on Facebook, and I will be putting a link to the full review of the TM36 when it's done right down there in the description for the video. And in addition, because this video is going to be pretty long anyway, and because of the crazy long throw of the TM36, I'm going to be making a separate video that just highlights some of the throwing capabilities of the TM36, how far it can project its beam and that sort of thing. So I'll be putting in a link to that as well. So the TM36, new light by Nitecore. It's one of the larger lights that I've seen, and probably one of the larger ones that's really out there. You can see it claims just over 1 kilometer of throw, which is, I think, just short of 0.7 miles, if you prefer miles. So it's pretty impressive. This is the box that it comes in, and my box got a little dented up by customs on its way here, but we'll go ahead and open it up and see what we've got. So inside it's got this protective foam packing, and then you can see we have the light itself here. I'll set that aside for a moment while we get everything else out. And it has the little warranty card and the user manual. This is something you'll want to hang on to because it's definitely going to be useful, because it's got a lot of features and a lot of things to know about the TM36 and how it works. We have some accessories here. I'll get to those in a second. And the strap, another accessory. You know you've got a real flashlight when they don't send you lanyards anymore, they send you shoulder straps. And we have the wall charger here. So that's the accessories. And I will open them up so you can see them a little bit better. We've got quite a few things here. There's actually 2 sets of attachment points for the shoulder strap. So here's one extra set that I'm just going to set aside because it only takes one to show you. A smaller ring and a larger ring to attach to the light. It does actually come with a lanyard. Also in this bag is a little replacement rubber cover for the charging port, and I'll get to the charging port later, but it's good that they included that replacement cover for it. These little things are also part of the strap system. And then there is the charger. I'll take that out of its bag so you can see what it is like. It's just a standard wall wart charger that plugs into the wall, that then plugs into the flashlight. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in now so it is ready when we get to that portion of the review. Alright, so just to cover the accessories so we can get those out of the way and I can put them out of my way on the table here. Oh, by the way, you may have noticed this isn't my normal spot to do reviews in. That's because the TM36 is too large to fit in my softbox with all of its nice lighting and nice background. So here I am at a table that's a little bit larger. But just to get this out of the way, like I said, to attach the shoulder strap, you carefully fit this over the light, and it snaps down into this little groove near the head here. And I appear to be missing, oh, I've got it one up too far, I believe. So it actually needs to go in this groove right here. And there we go, I've got it in that groove. And then there are 2 of these little metal clips that go on top of those rings, one large one and one small one. The larger one obviously goes on the larger ring. That just slides right over that. And then the smaller ring here goes down at the tail the same way, just kind of gently but forcefully slip that on there. And there's another one of these little clips with a hole in it. And for each of these pieces, like I said, there is an extra in case one gets broken or lost or anything. So while you have these on, these pieces aren't actually secured on anything, so if you don't actually have the shoulder strap hooked to it, you'll probably want to take those off so they don't fall off and get lost. But like I said, if there are extras if it does get lost. So then this just clips right through this hole right here, and same thing on the other end. And there you have your shoulder strap. I'm actually going to take the strap portion off so it doesn't get in the way while I'm trying to do the rest of the review. And you can see it is pretty secure on there. Alright, and I'll leave the rings on there for now, they won't be in the way too much. So, let's get down to the interesting stuff now that we have the accessories out of the way. The TM36 is the first light that I've reviewed, and one of a few lights that use a luminous SBT70 emitter. Now, the fun thing about the luminous SBT70, you may, if you know much about high-end flashlights, most of them use Cree brand emitters. And those are great because especially the XML emitters have excellent efficiency at high brightnesses. However, the SBT70 by Luminous is able to get to higher brightnesses than the XML before completely overheating, and also it has the advantage of being rounded. So I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see that here, but if you check out, I'll see if my camera zoom is able to decently show that. That's a little bit fuzzy, but you'll be able to see it better if you check out the full review. The emitter itself is round, where most emitters are square. Most LED emitters are square. That means that all the light being produced by this is going to be able to be focused well. There's no corners that are going to be weird for the beam, so that makes it much easier to focus this. All of the light is going to be basically in the perfect shape to be focused well. And then you'll also notice that this reflector is huge. So as I'm looking at it, the emitter sits down right about here. So this whole area here is reflector. That can be hard to tell looking into it on the video, but from about here up is all reflector. This is a light designed for long throw. So it's got high output from that SBT70, and it is well focused to be able to throw really far. That's what I was talking about, that over a kilometer of throw. Now the SBT70, I believe, is less efficient than like an XML or even an MTG2 emitter, but you get the better throw out of that, which is really the aim of the TM36. So moving on to the next part that I want to cover here, the heat dissipation fins on the head. You can see there are quite a few of them. I haven't counted them, but there are quite a few. This increases the surface area of the light, which means as heat moves out of the emitter and into the mass of the light, and there is a lot of mass here to soak up that heat, as heat moves out of the emitter and into the light, it can go to these heat dissipation fins and get into the air better. And the more surface area there is, the better the air is going to move that heat away from the light, which is good for the emitter, keeps the temperature down. And along those lines, the TM36 is also pretty special in that it includes a thermal sensor that will automatically turn down the brightness when the light gets too hot. It's pretty common nowadays for a lot of high output lights to automatically step down their brightness after a certain period of time, but the TM36 is one of the few that actually consistently measures the temperature, and when it reaches 60 degrees Celsius or 140 Fahrenheit, it will turn down the brightness so that you don't overheat the emitter and or the batteries and shorten your lifetime of your light. So that's pretty handy. The next thing to cover, the OLED display right here. That's this. You can see as I push that button, it says standby right now. It gives me the battery voltage of 4.14 volts, so that's where I'm at. This gives you all of the details about the status of the light, the mode that it's in, the output, the throw, the battery level or the voltage remaining, all that great stuff. So you'll see more of that when we get to that later on. This switch here is this one, the main switch, is a two-stage button, kind of like if you have a point-and-shoot camera. You can hold it down part way, or you can press it all the way, and that has different functions here on the light, which we'll get to when we cover the user interface. You also notice it's blinking blue. That is a location function, like a location beacon, so if you have the light sitting in a dark room, you can find it easily. And it consumes pretty little power on that. That light also has some other features. I'm not going to go into all the details of how everything works, and we'd be here forever, but you can check the manual for that. If you decide to get the light, or if you want to just look at the full review, I've got a picture of the manual on there. So let's see what's next. The charging port on the back here. Let's talk about the charging port. So the TM36 has a built-in charging port for its battery. It's this right here. So you can see that's where the plug goes. This rubber thing I mentioned, we have a spare one of those, so this is one thing that I'm just not sure how long this little rubber cover is going to last if I use the light very often. It is sort of protected by the fact that it's right here up next to this larger part, so it's not going to get scraped off so easily if it's in a bag or something, but they did provide an extra, which is a good thing that I appreciate, because if I want to change that out, I'm glad to have the extra. So while we're here, I'll just show you really quick the plug. Slips right in there, and then you can see while it's plugged in over here, it tells me that it's charging, gives the current voltage, and when the charge is complete, it'll say 4.20 volts, charge complete. The status thing, we'll read that out. Now also, as we'll see in a minute, the actual charging circuitry is built into the battery, not the head of the light. Yeah, we'll discuss that when we get to the battery. Also, you'll notice right here, there is a tripod mount. Now, because this area is kind of small and you've got this raised portion here, my tripod mounts, I have two tripods. One of them will mount this, the other won't, just because the mounting on it is too big. One of them just barely fits up snug. So that's something to be aware of. You might need a rather small mount for your tripod there. But that's a good function, especially with the weight of this light. If you want to have it shining into one spot for a prolonged period of time, it's nice to be able to mount it on the tripod. Next, let's move on back, and we will talk about the... where am I at? I've got notes here so I don't forget anything. Sorry for the delay. The battery itself, we'll move on to that. So this whole thing is the battery pack. The body of the light is the battery pack. It comes with the light, but you can also order extras of it if you desire, and I believe it fits on other TM series by Nitecore as well. The battery is, I don't know if it has it written in here. Yeah, here it is. NBP52. It is a lithium-ion battery pack. It says they rate it at 65 watt-hours, which they say is approximately equivalent to 8 18650 lithium-ion batteries, 2300 milliamp hours each. So, taking a look inside the battery pack here, you can see the head of the light has these two rings for the positive and negative terminal, and then this portion of the light has one raised ring to meet with the outer ring, and then these inner ones here are actually, if you can see, they are spring-loaded to make sure that they make contact also with their ring. And then here is the charging port for the battery pack. So if I plug into that charging port there, you can see it blinks, and I believe it goes, this blue light blinks to let you know it's charging. I believe when it gets up to about 98% of a full charge, it will turn solid to let you know that it's done charging. So that is the battery pack. Slip this back on. As I mentioned, the charging circuit is in there, included in the battery. So it's nice that that battery can charge on its own, because that means if you have multiple battery packs, you can be charging one while using the other, because the manual claims, I haven't tested this yet, but that it takes about 16 hours to charge it from a depleted battery to a fully charged battery with this 2-amp charger cable that comes with it. They say that they also have a 4-amp charging cable available that'll charge it in closer to 8 hours. But like I said, it's nice that you can charge the battery separately from the light. Next, let's talk about the user interface. This is the fun part. So the user interface, actually controlling the output of the light, is controlled by this button, and then you control the status on the Oled display, what it shows with this button here. So like if I press this button right now, it tells you that I'm in standby mode, and it tells me the battery voltage. And we're still at 4.14 volts. I didn't have it plugged in long enough to bump it up any. So to turn the light on, first you can either press it a half press or a full press. So if I press it, that was a full press there, and I'm in, I believe, the turbo mode. So we'll check and make sure. I'm pressing this button and you can see it's going through. Yep, so this, it says level 5 on there, which also in the manual it calls turbo mode. This is the maximum output. You can see it's telling me I've got 1,100 meters of throw and 1,800 lumens, and I will be testing those to see, I'll get the real numbers that I test in the full review. So you can tell it's pretty bright, actually. My camera is going to adjust to it, it's so bright. But you can tell it's got a pretty narrow beam and a very nicely well-defined hotspot there. So as I'm backing it up, you see the hotspot doesn't get much larger, which is how you can tell that it's going to be pretty well focused. Now there's actually two kind of settings, two settings for the user interface. So if I press the full press there, you saw, and I went straight to the maximum output, and with the full press there I have access to the maximum output, and then if I give a half press I can bump down to the high output, which it says is about 800 lumens. So on this setting, after I do the full press, first I can use the half press to change between the level 4 and level 5 outputs. And so if I press it with a half press instead of a full press from off, we go to the low mode, which is I believe about 50 lumens, and now I have access to low, medium, the low, medium, and high. So I've got access to 4 of the modes here. The maximum output I'm going to get is at 800 lumens. So that's level 1, 2, 3, and 4, which in the manual they call lower, low, medium, and high. And as you can see, as I'm changing that, this status display here, if I can get it to focus, is updating itself. Yeah, the 50 lumens, the 200 lumens, the 400, and the 800. And also, if I press this button here, it tells me right now I'm at 3.96 volts. So you may think that dropped pretty fast, which it did because this is a high output light. But actually, while it's under power, while the light's on, you've actually got some battery voltage sag. So you can look that up if you want more info. I'm not going to go into detail here, but basically, while you're running the light at higher voltage, at higher currents, the voltage is going to appear to be lower than it really is. So like right now I'm on the lowest output and it's telling me I'm at 4.1 volts, but say I bump it up to the high output, the battery thinks it's at 3.96 volts. And if I were to go to turbo, the battery voltage would look even lower. If I turn it off for a second, then the battery voltage will recover. So that's just a little quirk of how batteries work. But as you can see, while it's on, I've got access to the battery voltage, this kind of battery indicator bar. So if you're not into the voltages and knowing how far what voltage is what, it's got this kind of a visual indicator that might be more simple. Also an estimate of the current runtime left and the current temperature. And like I said, when that gets up to 60 degrees Celsius, or we'll have which is about 140 Fahrenheit, it will step down in output to prevent overheating. So that's what that status display can do. Also, while the light is on, if I double click, I go into the strobe mode. You can see it says strobe right there. And if I do a half press from there, I go to SOS. And if I do another half press, I go to beacon, which is just kind of an intermittent flash. Like if you want to signal someone your location and leave the light in a spot or something and not have to tend it. And you can see it says strobe, SOS, and beacon right there. So the last feature is while the light is on, if I hold down the off button for a second, it flashes once and then it goes into lockout mode. And that means if I just am pressing buttons, it's just going to tell me it's in lockout and it's not going to turn on by accident. And then to actually turn it back on, I have to hold down the button for another second, it'll turn back on. So when you just have it off like this, it's actually just in standby. To lock it out while the light's on, you just hold down the button for about a second and it goes into lockout. So I believe that is everything that we need to cover. So I believe now we're ready to take it outside and give it a shot in the dark. Alright, we're outside with the Nitecore TM36 and we're going to give it a shot in the dark. Here you can see it's a beacon blinking. Kind of fun. Okay, well, we'll fire it up. So here we are. Let's see what mode I came on in. Looks like I was in the turbo mode right off the bat here, so let's back it off and start with something a little more moderate. Here we go. Here's the lowest mode. Level 1 is what it's calling it on the display right now. If that'll focus, I'm not sure. It might be too close with the settings I've got it on. So here's the level 1. This gives you a good view of just how tightly focused that spot is. And even on here, you can't really see just how tight that beam is. So right now, the actual hot spot is probably, I would say, about 1.5 feet in diameter. Maybe it's 1 foot in diameter at this distance. So it's that very tightly focused, very good beam. And you can see the spill is very even outside of that center hot spot. There's kind of like the very center circle, and then a soft, if I can put my finger on there for you, there's kind of a center circle that ends right about here, and then the soft fade out and into the spill zone that comes all the way out here. So yeah, about here is the center hot spot, and then it fades out. There's a spill. So this is the low mode, level 2. Here's level 3, the medium mode, 400 lumens. Level 4, the high mode. And then if I hold down here for a second, kicked it into turbo. So you can see it's a lot of light. As I shine it on things up here, my camera can't quite adjust to it correctly, but I might shine it up on this tree up here. You can see just how tightly focused that spot is. You can even see the beam pretty well here because it's kind of a foggy night, so it's kind of a fun beam pattern. I'll show you there. But yeah, so this is how tight that beam is, and like I say, I will make a shorter dedicated video just for the throw, but even here you can just see this is pretty impressive as I shine it around on that tree and up in the air, or maybe I'll shine it at the moon. So if there's anyone up there on the moon right now, they can see that probably, so at least in a couple seconds, however long it takes the light to get there. So again, I'll just run through those modes. We've got the lower, the low, the mid, and missed one. Lower, low, mid, high, and the turbo. There it is. And one thing I missed in the earlier portion is I found it also has a momentary turbo feature. So right now, light's in standby, and I hold down the button, and it goes into momentary turbo mode, and it will turn off again as soon as I release. So I'm holding down, I've got turbo, release, and back off. So that's actually a really neat feature that I missed. I wanted to make sure I put in this portion. So again, thanks for checking out the review. If you haven't yet, go ahead and hit subscribe right up here. Follow me on Facebook there. Check out the full review. And again, I'll be putting that link to the throw video in here as well, so you can check that out. Thanks, and have a good night.